Welcome to the show, everybody. This is your boy, Lo Jackson, coming to you live with the Only You podcast. This is a podcast where I like to read you books that might encourage you. It may give you some kind of different mindset that just might not have been there. You know, it wasn't there yesterday. It wasn't there this morning, and that's what this podcast is about. It's not about me. It's not about me talking on this microphone. This podcast is about you, your journey, and my journey too, and what I'm learning along the way as well. This is my second season. I'm down. I ain't no clown. I just try to relay information to people that might be too busy to get the information. And if that makes sense. And I hope it does, because a lot of times in life we get caught in our struggles and don't realize that we're even in a struggle. When life gets you down, you gotta find a pick-me-up. And that's why you pick up the Only You podcast. And today I want to read to you guys a book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I find this book to be a 5-star review because Sun Tzu is a great author for one, but you learn so much in that book that there's no way you couldn't apply the principles to your life. It's just a given. Once you read like the first intro to that book, you know that you need to read the rest of it. So get out there and be reading. And that's what this podcast is about too, you guys. I like to encourage people to read. I got fans. I've had over 5,000 listens. I just want to say thank you to a fan. Hey, Lee, thank you so much for the comments. I do appreciate it. I hope you got mine. Like my boy down in San Antonio, Xavier, used to say back in the day, I love you, girl. Yeah, thank you. This is the Only You podcast, your boy Lo Jackson, coming to you live. And I say I do this live because I do it live every time. I stutter, I stumble my words, but in heart I'm real. And today we're doing The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Simplified Chinese, was a Chinese military general, strategist, philosopher, and writer who lived during the Eastern Zhou period. Sun Tzu is traditionally credited as the author of The Art of War, an influential work of military strategy that has affected both Western and Eastern Asian philosophy and military thinking. It focuses much more on alternatives to battle and even to war than war itself, such as stratagem, delay, the use of spies, the making and keeping of alliances, the use of deceit, and a willingness to submit, a least temporary to more powerful foes. Sun Tzu is revered in Chinese and Eastern Asian culture as a legendary historical military figure. His birth name was Sun Wu. That's traditional Chinese. He was known outside of his family by his courtesy name, Chang Quinn. Now, Chang Quinn was a bad mother. Shut your mouth! This is the Only You podcast. And today I'm reading to you The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for following me, and really thank you for all the awesome comments I've gotten. I am not anyone special. I try to be the best I can be at this, and this is not easy. It takes a lot to put this together for you. It really does. Now, where was I with that intro? And this is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I wanted to get you that introduction, though. Thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast, and this is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And this is an old book, and you can find it on all the platforms I've told you guys about. Barnes & Noble sells it. It's a great gift to give to somebody, Get out there and read, and that's what this podcast is about, too. It's about encouraging people to read and to learn things that they didn't know yesterday, to make tomorrow a better day, And I want to read to you the introduction. Like I said earlier, Sun Tzu was a native of the Chai state. His art of war brought him to the notice of Hulu, king of Wu. Hulu said to him, "This is the king. you guys. I have carefully pre-used your 13 chapters. May I submit your theory of managing soldiers to a slight test? And in return, Sun Tzu replied, "You may." Hulu asked, "May the test be applied to women?" The answer was again in the affirmative. So arrangements were made to bring 180 ladies out of the palace. Sun Tzu divided them into 2 companies and placed one of the king's favorite concubines at the head of each. He then bade them all take spears in their hands and addressed them thus: "I presume you know the difference between front, back, right hand, and left hand." The girls replied, "Yes." Sun Tzu went on, "When I say eyes front, you must look straight ahead. When I say left turn, you must face towards your left hand. When I say right turn, you must face towards your right hand. When I say about turn, you must face right about towards your back." Again, the girls assented. The words of command having been thus explained, he set up the halberds, the battle axes, in order to begin the drills. Then, to the sound of drums, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-da-da-doom-doom-doom, he gave the order, right turn, but the girls only burst out laughing. Sun Tzu said, "If words of command are not clear and distinct, if orders are not thoroughly understood, the general is to blame." So, he started drilling them again, and this time gave the order, left turn, whereupon the girls once burst into fits of laughter. Sun Tzu, if words of command are not clear and distinct, if orders are not thoroughly understood, the general is to blame. But if the orders are clear, oh, yes, if the orders are clear, girls, and the soldiers nevertheless disobey, then it is the fault of their officers. So saying, he ordered the leaders of the 2 companies to be beheaded. Now the king of Wu was watching the scene from the top of a raised pavilion, and when he saw that his favorite concubines were about to be executed, he was greatly alarmed and hurriedly sent down the following message: "We are quite satisfied as to our general's ability to handle the troops. If we are bereft," an audience, bereft means lacking in or lacking of. "If we are bereft of these 2 concubines, our meat and drink will lose their savor. It is our wish that they not be beheaded, sir." Sun Tzu replied, "Having once received His Majesty's commission to be the general of his forces, there are certain commands of His Majesty which, acting in this capacity, I am unable to accept." According, he had the 2 leaders beheaded, and straightway installed the pair next in order as leaders in their place. When this had been done, the drum was sounded for the drill once more. Ba-dum, ba-dum, brrr-boom. And the girls went through all the evolutions, turning to the right or to the left, marching ahead or wheeling back, kneeling and standing, while perfect accuracy and precision, not venturing to utter a sound. Yeah, no one was laughing at that point, wouldn't you say? Then Sun Tzu sent a messenger to the king, saying, "Your soldiers, sire, are now properly drilled and disciplined, and ready for your majesty's inspection. There can be put to any use that their sovereign may desire. Bid them go through fire and water, and they will not disobey." But the king replied, "Let our general cease drilling and return to camp. As for us, we have no wish to come down and inspect the troops. Thereupon Sun Tzu said, "The king is only fond of words and cannot translate them into deeds." After that, Hulu saw that Sun Tzu was one who knew how to handle an army, and finally appointed him the general. In the West, he defeated everyone, the state, and all the way, and forced his way into Ying, the capital. To the north, he put fear into the state and spread his fame abroad amongst the federal princes, and Sun Tzu shared in the might of the king. About Sun Tzu himself is all that has to tell us in this chapter, but he proceeds to give a biography of his descendant, Sun Pen, born about 100 years after his famous ancestor's death. And remember the name Sun Pen. Audience, thank you for tuning in to the Only You podcast. Your boy Lo Jackson. I'm doing The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Don't be out there messing around with Sun Tzu. One bad dude. He don't play no games out there beheading people, y'all. Shoot. And also the outstanding military genius of his time, Sun Tzu. The historian speaks of him too as Sun Tzu, and his preface was read, Sun Tzu had his feet cut off and yet continued to discuss the art of war. He discussed the art of war. It seems likely then that Pen was a nickname bestowed on him after his mutation, unless the story was invented in order to account for the name. Isn't that wild, you guys? He was probably walking around with no feet up, you know. One bad dude don't mess around with Sun Tzu. The name-crowning incident of his career, the crushing defeat of his treacherous rival Peng Chung, will be found briefly related in chapter 5, 19. Note, to return to the elder Sun Tzu, he is mentioned in two other passages. In the third year of his reign, 512 BC, Hulu, king of Wu, took the field and attacked the city of Chu. He captured the town of Shu and slew the two princes' sons who had formerly been generals of Wu. He was then meditating a descent of Ying, the capital, but the general Sun Wu said, "The army is exhausted. It is not yet possible. We must wait." After further success fighting, in the 9th year of 506 BC, King Hulu addressed Wu Tuzu and Sun Wu, which Sun Wu is Sun Tzu, saying formally, "You declared that it was not yet possible for us to enter Yin. It is the time ripe now." The two men replied, "They are grasping, and Covertus and the Prince of Tang both have a grudge against him. If your majesty has resolved to make a grand attack, you must win over the two, and then you may succeed." Hulu followed his advice, beat Chu in 5 pitched battles, and marched into Ying, the capital. This is the latest date at which anything is recorded of Sun Wu, which I believe Sun Wu is Sun Tzu. He does not appear to have survived his patron, who died from effects of a wound on 496. In another chapter there occurs this passage. From this time onward, a number of famous soldiers arose, one after the other. Cao Fan, who was employed by the Chen state, Wang Tuzu in the service of Chai, and Sun Wu in the service of Wu. These men developed and threw light upon the principles of war. And you guys, thank you for tuning in to the Only You podcast. This is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because this is a great read, and I hope you rush out there and check it out for yourself. It has a lot to teaching here. You have so much education to learn about in this thing. It's like, I'm serious, you guys. Like, when I first read the first 5 chapters of this book, I mean, I was pretty mind-blowing. Like, chapter 1 is laying plans. 2 is waging war. Let's read a little bit of both, okay? Chapter 1, laying plans. Sazu Kung is defining the meaning of the Chinese for the title of this chapter. Says it refers to deliberations in the temple selected by the general for his temporary use, or as we should say, in his tent. 1. Sun Tzu said the art of war is of virtual importance to the state. 2. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence is a subject of inquiry. You guys listen to this stuff, seriously. I mean, write this stuff down, honestly, or run out and get this book. 2. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. 3. The art of war then is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account as one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are the moral law is 1, 2 is heaven, 3 is earth, 4 is the commander, and 5 is the method of discipline. It appears from which follows that Sun Tzu means by moral law a principle of harmony, not unlike the Tao of Lao Tzu. Oh yeah, you guys, that's a type of religion. As Taoism. I totally forgot about that. If you guys get a chance, read about Taoism. That stuff's wild. It's pretty interesting. In its moral aspect, one might be tempted to render it by moral, were it not considered as an attribute of the ruler in Note 13. 5, 6. Okay, I'm moving on a little bit. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler. You know, do you guys understand that? The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler. I believe he's talking about God there. So that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any dangers they may occur to them while on this planet. I believe, that's my own words right there, not Sun Tzu's. 7 is heavenly signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. The commentator, I think, making an unnecessary mystery of 2 words here. Mang Shi refers to the hard and the soft, waxing and waning of heaven. Wang Hasi, however, I believe these are like scholars, you guys. I'm sorry to interrupt the reading. However, may be right in saying that what is meant is the general economy of heaven, including the 5 elements, the 4 seasons, wind and clouds, and other phenomena. Kind of interesting, right? 8 is earth, compromises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, the chances of life and death. 9 is the commander. The commander stands for the virtue of wisdom. The commander is God, to me. Sincerity, benevolence. You know? Do you guys know anything about benevolence? The quality of being well-meaning, kindness. You know? Courage and strictness. And that's the commander, you guys. It says the 5 cardinal virtues of the Chinese are humanity or benevolence. 2 is uprightness of mind. 3, in which this stuff's in the Bible and Christianity too. Being upright is important to everyone and to yourself and your person. You know, who are you if you're not upright, if you're always being somebody else? You know, don't hide from your true self. If you're a mad person, you gotta seek help, you know. You can't take your stuff out on people. 3, self-respect, self-control, or proper feeling. And that's important. 4 is wisdom. And, you know, wisdom is, you know, a force to honestly really be reckoned with here, you know. I think wisdom is like this. With age, everything is possible. But with time, everything is impossible. And those are my own words. And I made that up. So don't steal it. I'm just kidding. I did make that up though. But wisdom, that's wisdom to me though in those words. 5 is sincerity or good faith. Here, wisdom and sincerity are put before humanity or benevolence, and the 2 military virtues of courage and strictness substitute for uprightness of mind and self-respect, self-control, or proper feeling. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with in today's society is proper feeling, because we're so regulated by so many different chemicals and so many different little stupid addictions we don't even realize. 10 is by method and discipline are to be understood the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the gradations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditures. And if you guys don't know how the the highway system got started in the United States, it was by one of the great presidents we've had, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower was our general at one point, man, that became our president. But once he was president, he put into act I believe it's the Interstate Act. Honestly, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And he pretty much got it from The Art of War. It said right there, you know, which the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army and the control of military expenditures. And that's how Dwight D. Eisenhower, I don't know why I keep saying Howard, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Thank you guys for listening to Only You Podcast. I'm doing The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And we're doing chapter 1 right now, and I'm on number 11, which is these 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them not will fail. And that's totally true. Anybody I've ever given direction to in my life, if they didn't listen to me and they thought I was a joke and they played around or horseplayed, I would always warn them in the beginning, like, hey, it's one thing to joke, it's one thing to play, but, you know, you don't ever throw anything at anybody, you don't ever put your hands on anybody. I actually was a road crew supervisor once, and I had a guy come to me and tell me that this other guy kept smacking him on the butt and telling him good game, and he didn't like it, so I had to go address the other guy and tell him, hey man, lay off. He didn't like it. Don't do it again. So, the dude that came to me in the beginning, he literally opens up. And we're working on the highway. They were actually picking up garbage at the time. And I was the road crew supervisor. He found a plastic Pepsi bottle full of urine, unscrewed it, threw it across the freeway. I was trying to get my seatbelt off to get out in time, to get over there in time. I mean, I had to run across 4 lanes of traffic, and I seen the bottle hit the ground, and the dude, it splashed all over him. Took off in front of traffic. They came to like screeching halt. He just started waylaying the guy. I couldn't get over there in time. I wound up having to call 911. in which they were both instantly arrested. It sucked because I just literally had to have like an HR moment with them. But 12 of The Art of War. Sorry about that long story. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison in this wise. 13. One, which of the two sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? It's imboyle. Imboyle? It's IMBUE, which is inspire or permeate with a feeling or quality, is what that word actually means. Thank you guys for tuning in. 2 is which of the two generals has most ability. 3, with whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth. 4, on which side is discipline most rigorously enforced. 2 Mu alludes to remarkable story of the Sun Tzu. It really does say that stuff in here. I'm not going to read it to you, though, because it just seems like gibberish, but it's actually native Chinese names, who was such a strict disciplinary that once, and I don't want to actually hack their names, because these people are honestly scholars of this book, and they were the ones that interpreted it in the beginning. Like, they were scholars in like 155 AD and like 220 AD. This is the Only You podcast. And back to The Art of War. That was actually, you know what? I'll go on to that next chapter, because that was okay. I'll do 5. Which army is stronger? 6 is on which side are officers and men more highly trained. 7 is in which army is there the greater consistency both in reward and punishment? On which side is there the most absolute certainty that merit will be properly rewarded and misdeeds summarily, I can't say that word very well, summarily punished, and misdeeds summarily punished. And 14, by means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. 15, the general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it will conquer. Let such one be retained, let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel, nor acts upon it, will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. That's interesting. 16, while heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. 17, it says, according as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. And Sun Tzu, as a practical soldier, will have none of bookish rhetoric. He cautions us here not to pin our faith to abstract principles, for, as Chang Yu puts it, while the main laws of strategy can be stated clearly enough for the benefit of all and sundry, you must be guided by the actions. I wanted to see what sundry was. Sundry is of various kinds, several. Interesting. Or lemon rind and sun-dried herbs. I had never seen that word, but I forgot what it meant. Thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast. I'm doing The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and we're talking, this is one of the scholars, Chang Yu, right now. He puts it like this: while the main laws of strategy can be stated clearly enough. For the benefit of all and sundry, you must be guided by the actions of the enemy in attempting to secure a favorable position in actual warfare. On the eve of the Battle of Waterloo, the Lord commanding the cavalry went to the Duke of Wellington in order to learn what his plans and calculations were for the morrow, because, as he explained, he might suddenly find himself commander-in-chief and would be able to frame new plans in a critical moment. The Duke listened quietly and then said, "Who will attack first tomorrow?" "I, or Bonaparte." "Bonaparte," replied the Lord. "Well," continued the Duke, "Bonaparte has not given me any idea of his projects. Bonaparte has not given me any idea of his projects, and as my plans will depend upon his, how can you expect me to tell you what mine are?" 18 is all warfare is based on deception, and that's the truth. No matter what warfare it is, whether it be civil warfare, whether it be mental warfare, it's serious though. All warfare is based on deception. The truth of this pithy and profound saying will be admitted by every soldier. If you guys don't know what pithy means, it actually means concise and forcefully expressive. So we just learned a new word, pithy. Thank you guys for listening. And profound saying will be admitted by every soldier. I read that. Colonel Henderson tells us that Wellington, great in so many military qualities, was especially distinguished by the extraordinary skill with which he concealed his movements and deceived both friend and foe. And what this scholar is getting at is somebody else used this book at one time to win a battle, because it's real. And like I said, all welfare is based on deception. In 1942, you guys, the Israeli army beat the Palestinians not by real warfare, but by mental games. They filled up every single 55-gallon drum barrel they owned in that country. But at first they brought every single 55-gallon drum that they owned in that country to the very top of the mountains where they were, that the Palestinians were about to invade and take over. This is 1942. You can look it up. But in reality, they filled every single 55-gallon drum with rocks. And then they took, I can't remember how many tanks. I think it was like it was anywhere from 2 to 4 tanks. I don't really recall. And don't quote me on every single little detail, but I do believe the story to be true is that they took the tanks and then they rolled the barrels down the mountain, and the Palestinians thought that it was hundreds and hundreds of tanks, so they retreated. And like I said, all welfare, yeah, it's true too. All welfare is based on deception. No, all warfare is based on deception, and that's how the Israelis won in 1942, because they won based on deception. 19, hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. 20. Hold out baits to entice the enemy. Feign disorder and crush him. All competitors except Chang Yu, commentators, which commentators I believe means like philosophers or scholars. Chang Yu says, When he is in disorder, crush him. It is more natural to suppose that Sun Tzu is still illustrating the use of the deception in war. So it's not saying that he's really saying crush him, but deceptively. And 21, if he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, invade him. 22, if your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. I do find all those things to be so true in life and in situations. One of the guys says that the good tactician plays with his adversary as a cat plays with a mouse. First feigning weakness and immobility, and then suddenly pouncing upon him. 23. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. Bitch, get your ass up and get to work. There ain't no time for rest. What's her face said? Ain't nobody got time for all that. This is probably the meaning, though. While we are taking our ease, wait for the enemy to tire himself out. He has lured him on and tired him out. Yeah, it says the guy has lured him on and then tired him out. If his forces are united, separate them. Less plausible is the interpretation favored by most of the commentators. If sovereign and subject are in accord, put division between them. 24. Attack him where he is unprepared, unappear where you are not expected. 25. These military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand. 26. Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his attempt for the battle to be fought and to be won. Thank you guys for listening. And chapter 2 is waging war. 1 is Sun Tzu said, in the operations of war, where there are in the field 1,000 swift chariots, as many heavy chariots, and 100,000 mail-clad soldiers, which mail-clad, dude, they're freaking decked out in steel, so they're definitely tough as nails. The swift chariots were lightly built, and according to Chang Yu, used for the attack. The heavy chariots were heavier and designed for the purpose of defiance. It is true, he says, that the latter were light, but this seems hardly probable. It is interestingly to note the analogies between early Chinese warfare and that of the Homeric Greeks. And they actually shared a lot of stuff. They actually traded together, the Chinese and the Greeks, at one point. And they probably still do to this day, honestly. In each case, the war chariot was the important factor, forming as did the nucleus round, which was grouped a certain number of foot soldiers. With regard to the number given here, we are informed that each swift chariot was accompanied by 75 footmen, and each heavy chariot was by 25 footmen, so that the whole army would be divided up into 1,000 battalions, each consistently of 2 chariots and 100 men. 2 is when you engage in actual fighting. If victory is long in coming, the men's weapons will grow dull, and their armor will be dampered. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. 3 is again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be to the strain. 4. Now when your weapons are dulled, your armor dampered, your strength exhausted, and your treasures spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremities. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that must ensue. 5. Thus, though we have heard of stupid haste and war, cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. Thank you guys for listening. This is the Only You podcast, and I said that I was going to give you guys some coping skills, and I really did want to share with you, what is conflict? Conflict is a normal part of any healthy relationship. After all, two people can't be expected to agree on everything all the time. The key is not to fear or to try to avoid conflict, but to learn to resolve it in a healthy way. When conflict is mismanaged, it can cause great harm to a relationship, but when handled in respectful, positive ways, conflict actually provides an opportunity to strengthen the bond between two people. And I don't think a lot of us really understand that, whether, you're experienced with conflict at home or work or school. Learning these skills can help you resolve differences in a healthy way and build stronger and more rewarding relationships. One is a conflict is more than just a disagreement. And not a lot of people understand that a conflict is more than just a disagreement. It's actually a situation in which one or both parties perceive a threat. And so when you actually encounter a threat, you are forced with a fight or flight mode. Actually, what determines that is actually the surroundings and the situation as well. Your amygdala inside of your brain is triggered. Then your prefrontal cortex is triggered, because that should be, your mindfulness or your governing mind saying, hey, you're not at any harm, or hey, it's time to buck up and beat the fuck out of somebody. That shit happens in life. You gotta be real. Whether or not, the threat is real, a conflict is more than just a disagreement. Never forget that. Conflicts continue to fester when ignored. And you see this a lot in the workplace. Conflicts continue to fester when ignored when two people have issues, because conflicts involve perceived threats to our well-being and our survival. We're actually, animals. They stay with us until we face them and we resolve them. And if you don't resolve them, they grow into personality disorders, borderline personality disorders, depressions, leading into, how we respond to conflicts is based on our perceptions. We respond to conflicts based on our perceptions of the situation, not necessarily to an objective review, I guess, of like the facts, or our perceptions are, most of our perceptions are influenced by life experiences, culture, values, and beliefs. So we respond to conflicts based on our perceptions that way. And that is true for everything. Conflicts trigger strong emotions. When somebody comes at you with something, you either, flare up, submit, try to talk sense into them, or tell them to leave you alone, stop, or you just, beat the hell out of them, I guess. I hope not. And I do believe that nobody ever, nobody ever deserves to put their hands on anybody, ever. But every person is entitled to their own individuality, their own personality, and their own personal space. And if those boundaries are ever crossed, you guys, you need to take direct action. You need to say, hey, you're an enemy, man. You actually aren't a friend. You're a foe. You're cunning, but hey, you're doing things that are unappreciating people and their integrity, and no thank you. Nobody deserves that. Because everybody's entitled to their own individuality, and everybody's entitled to their own personality. And conflicts trigger strong emotions. And if you aren't comfortable with your emotions or able to manage them in times of stress, you probably won't be able to resolve conflict successfully, unfortunately. And that's the truth, because your conflicts trigger strong emotions, and it makes you do things that you don't think you would do, but unfortunately, there is repercussions for your actions in every situation. That's why we got to listen to Sun Tzu. Get yourself under control. When you have a manager, when you have a supervisor, when you have a CEO, you listen to them, and when they tell you something, it's not about the money. It's not about quietly quitting. It's not about they don't know me. They don't know where I've been. They don't know what I've been through. It's not about that. It's about the hierarchy of the situation at hand. Conflicts are an opportunity for growth. When you're able to resolve, your growth, when you're able to resolve your conflict, you're able to grow. You're able to move forward, It builds trust. It's like when you're able to resolve conflict in a relationship, it builds trust completely. There's no other way around that. The trust is formed, but it's easily broken. And it's especially broken when it comes to a person that's been broken. And a person that's been broken doesn't know they're broken, so they try to act like somebody else and be somebody else in mere situations and behave in certain types of ways that is unappreciated by other people, even family members, and it sucks. And it sucks when it's your family member. It's like, come on, man. I love you. Don't do this. Don't be that way. And it's like, you can feel secure knowing your relationship can survive challenges and disagreements. Because conflicts are an opportunity for growth, and don't forget that, you guys, because causes of conflict in a relationship are caused by many different things, but conflict arises from differences, both large and small. It occurs whenever people disagree over their values, their motivations, their perceptions, their ideas, or their desires. Oh man, I've had certain situations arise that have just been so stupid and crazy over stupid stuff that I thought was so trivial and funny that wound up really crushing somebody. And then I come back and I'm like, I am so sorry. I never meant that. I am terribly sorry. It's like sometimes these differences appear trivial, but when a conflict triggers strong feelings, a deep personal need, it's like it's often at the core of the problem. A deeper personal need is often at the core of the problem. These needs can range from the need to feel safe, secure, or respected, or valued. The need to be closer, to be more intimate. Those are all things that people need, and but you can get into conflicts about those things easily. Think about the opposing needs of a toddler and a parent. That's an easy opposing needs conflict. The child's need is to explore, so venturing to the street or to the cliff's edge actually meets that need. But the parent's need is to protect that child and put them in safety. The needs of each party play an important role in the long-term success of a relationship. Each deserves respect and consideration. In personal relationships, a lack of understanding about differing needs can result in distance, arguments, and even breakups. In the workplace, differing needs can result in broken deals, decreased profits, and a loss of jobs. And I think we've all witnessed that during COVID. Thank you guys for listening to the Only You podcast. And that was my rendition of The Art of War. Tune in next time.